The Earnestly Speaking podcast is a show that is founded on free-flowing conversation and may at times venture into mature subjects. Listener discretion is advised.
All right, welcome to the podcast. We host Earnest Christian coming to you on a Sunday afternoon, where I never record on Sunday afternoons here, but of course, when every day is Groundhog Day here in South Florida during the pandemic. On the line, of course.
I think in all our years, this is the first time I've done this with you on a weekend.
That is correct. We've been podcasting for about 8 years now, you and I, and you've never been on a Sunday show with me ever.
God, has it really been 8 years?
Yeah. On the line, Marc Francois.
2012.
Marc Francois also quarantined in Southern California. What's up, bud?
That's right.
How you holding up?
Not a whole hell of a lot.
You
We got the NBA playoffs. We're supposed to have started this week. We got baseball. I missed Jackie Robinson Day, my favorite day of the year in LA.
Can I be honest with you though, Mark? I don't really miss sports that much though. I don't. I'm not like. I mean, yeah, I'm missing basketball. So yeah, I'm missing it to some degree, but I'm not like losing my shit. Like because I got so much things I'm doing right now that's distracting me. Like watching The Office. I'm now season 8. I'm doing house projects. I'm doing things doing things that I probably wouldn't be doing on a normal Sunday, for example. So I don't really miss sports. That doesn't mean I love sports.
You're embracing the shift in how to fill your day.
Right, and a lot of things.
So as you know from our conversations offline, unfortunately for me, I'm having a harder time with that because I'm really immobile. So it's basically just PlayStation and TV for me at the moment because of the little knee surgery I had to have. Right.
Oh yeah, exactly. And that's what I'm talking about, the knee surgery. You had a pretty detailed story on your Instagram last week about what happened. I had no idea what was going on. I kind of just ran into that thing like, holy shit, and I texted immediately going, dude, you're okay? You had knee surgery last Sunday.
Yeah. So it was a really weird thing. Okay, so let me preface this by saying, are you familiar with what a bursitis is?
Yes, I do know the term. Yes.
Okay, all right. So for those
swelling,
who are
right?
not doctors and don't play them on TV, it's basically like a big, hot, painful, swelling balloon in any one of your joints. And you get them for a variety of reasons, like if you're a carpenter or a tile worker, bricklayer, somebody who spends a lot of time on their hands and knees, you're somebody that's going to be prone to getting them in your knees and elbows. Impact sports, things like that. Anyway. Athletes probably get them on a regular basis at, very early ages just because of the wear and tear on their joints, things like that. So I had one before in my elbow. And so so it was like a week and a half ago. It was like on a Tuesday or something. I was sitting funny. I was like sitting on my foot with like my leg folded underneath me. And I got up and my knee was all crampy and kind of, it hurt really bad. And so I thought I had a bursitis. Didn't really think much of it at first until I got a fever that night. And I was like, that's weird. So there's obviously an infection component with this too. So that made me a little nervous, and I went to the doctor the next day. So for those concerned that I went to the hospital during COVID and I took away vital services from people who need it, number one, I called first. Number two, called 2 different urgent care places. They did not answer their phone. And number 3, when I did call...
No, I think I lost you. I think I lost you, Mark. Can you hear me? There you were.
Oh, hold on.
Okay. I'll make note to cut that part off.
Sorry, for some reason it was like trying to run through my iPad, like not my Wi-Fi. So if my Wi-Fi cut out, it would.
Okay, no worries.
Okay, can you hear me now?
Yeah, okay, fine. Very fine.
Okay, perfect. Sorry, it was running through my iPad. So let's see, pick that up.
Urgent care didn't answer the phone.
So the urgent care places didn't answer the phone. I called the hospital. They said, look, we're dead. Come on in. So just to be kind of specific, I live in the greater Los Angeles area, but I live in Ventura County. Ventura County only has a few hundred reported cases of COVID, and our hospitals are in a very different situation than, say, like USC LA County Medical Center in downtown Los Angeles. We're just not dealing with the same kinds of things that big city hospitals, Brooklyn, Queens, things like that are. So it was fine for me to go to the hospital. In fact, when I was asking around during the course of my stay, I found out a lot of people were like getting flexed hours and stuff because they're so quiet at the moment. So good problem to have for our healthcare workers and our hospitals. But no, so I went in, the infection really concerned me. So they do an x-ray, they do blood tests. They didn't tap my knee or anything. They said, the effusion, so what was happening in my knee itself was not very big. And the PA that I talked to didn't think I'd get much relief from draining it. So he sent me home with antibiotics, ibuprofen, and instructions to come back if it didn't get better. Well, it didn't get better. So Saturday night, that's like 3-4 days later, I've been given the medicine time to work, and it wasn't working. My knee was getting bigger, more uncomfortable. My ability to walk was getting less and less, and I was pretty freaking miserable. So I finally go to the ER around dinner time on Saturday night, and I get there. I'm in the hospital for a few hours. They tap my knee. They drain a bunch of fluid, and I thought that was going to be the end of it. They were going to, drain it out and then send me home with antibiotics and more ibuprofen, and that would be the end of it. Come to find out, I'm having surgery. So I need to have I need to have an arthroscopic procedure. So it's basically done with a little fiber optic camera. They make a little nick above and a little nick below your knee. So I'll have 2 scars that'll probably look about as bad as anything I got riding a mountain bike, getting nicked by a tree branch or something when it's all said and done.
You went in pretty quick though, right? I remember texting you. You said you were in the hospital. I don't know how long you were in there when I texted you, but then you said you were having surgery within like a few hours after that. So.
Oh, no. Okay. So I went to the hospital I know this because when you're in the ER at this particular hospital, they tell you what your time of triage was.
Right. Mm-hmm.
So I was triaged at 5:55 p.m. I was in the ER for about 8 hours, waiting for blood work and stuff like that. And waiting for a hospital department to decide like who was going to admit me. Was I going to go to ortho? Was I going to go to infectious disease? Was I going to go elsewhere? So I was being admitted to ortho. So I finally got into an ortho bed around like 2:30 in the morning on Sunday. And then they told, and they had told me Saturday night, Sunday morning, whatever, that I would be having surgery sometime on Monday.
Is it the first time having surgery? First time? Oh, no.
I'm sorry?
First time having surgery in life? Or
no, I'm sorry. I'd be having surgery on Sunday. No, it was technically my second time. I had my wisdom teeth pulled, and then I had to have a little procedure done on my thyroid about 4 years ago.
Oh, okay. Okay. Not scary. Is it scary surgery? Is it scary you? Oh, no.
It was concerning only because they didn't know exactly what they were treating. Like, was it an infection? Was it something else? And so the scarier part of this, and I'll just be honest about it, is that I could have some kind of autoimmune disorder. And that's still up in the air. So I have to follow up with a primary. They have to go through my labs and my blood work and run a battery of other tests. But I could conceivably have some kind of it was not caused by a bursitis or a weird infection.
Okay.
All my symptom presentation was more in line with gout. But my lab work indicated there could be other autoimmune causes. So the surgeon's like, it's not my job to go down all those rabbit holes, but it is my job to tell you to follow up with your primary and tell them to go down those rabbit holes because you could have a part of it is that part of it is scary. My knee's fine. I'm barely taking 2 Advil every couple hours, and like I'm walking around on crutches and stuff like that. I can put a little pressure on it. I'm fine physically. But the concern is like that I could have some kind of autoimmune condition.
Which will actually put you at risk also if you were to ever, God forbid it's ever happened.
Yeah, if I've got
COVID-19.
some kind of autoimmune disease like lupus or something like that, I'm forever more at risk. Well, really with anything. If you have an autoimmune disease or diabetes, you're basically, anytime you're sick, it's worse. It's worse, and you're at, your risk to die is about double. because your body's ability to fight infections the way that it's supposed to.
Needless to say,
you're immunosuppressed.
Needless to say, you've been staying home. You haven't gone out more than you need to, right? Obviously, you've been.
Yeah. Go to the grocery store. That's about it. Put gas in the car.
I've been using the wife and I. We've been using the curbside. We shop at Target or Publix. Local grocery store. What we do, we'll put in the order like a day or two in advance. We know we're going to need something in a couple of days. Put an order online, and they say pick up at this amount of time, and they go to the curbside and they drop off your groceries. And I tell you what, I might try it more often when things are back to normal.
Some of my in-laws are doing that. For me personally, I just need to get the hell out the house.
I don't blame you, dude. It's hard.
I mean, anyway, I worked from home anyway, so it was like I didn't have much occasion to leave the house before quarantine, except like to play golf and stuff or hang out with friends.
But now that you're forced to, it sucks.
What's that?
Now that you're forced to do it now, like you can't get out.
Yeah, although one of the benefits of living where I live is that there are more conservative voices on our county board of supervisors than, say, in a county like Los Angeles. Mm-hmm. And there's a good chance that with the president's recent announcements about the economy, that Ventura County will probably be starting to open up some of its golf courses and things like they've already, like our county already reopened.
How do you feel about that?
I think as long as you're engaging in CDC outlined social distancing guidelines, certain outdoor things like parks and golf courses and certain recreation areas like maybe BMX tracks or skate parks or things like that, you can, to a pretty good extent, empower it for social distancing and still allow people to get out and get some fresh air and get some exercise. Right. Now, if a place isn't abiding by, like a golf course, I'd say, that's obviously an operation I know a lot about, being in the hospitality world and playing a shit ton of golf.
Yeah.
So this is one where I can pretty intelligently speak to it. But like a golf course is fairly simple. It's not going to be all that efficient, but you run a skeleton staff. You get extra bottles of sanitizer and paper towel, and you really spray the shit out of the seats and controls and keys of all the golf carts. Mm-hmm. And you have one player per cart, and, you tell everybody to stay 6 feet apart from each other. Short of sharing a golf cart with another person, you're pretty much social distancing anyway when you play golf because it's an individual sport. You're doing your own thing. Your ball's in its own place. Mm-hmm. So if everybody's either walking with a push cart or in their own golf cart, frankly, at least what's recommended by the CDC is a really easy set of guidelines to follow.
I agree.
At least at a golf course. There's other places where that's not the case, and you're going to have exceptions, like for instance hiking trails. A place like Runyon Canyon that gets thousands, if not millions, of visitors every year. That's a different story. But a little neighborhood golf course out where I live, 45 minutes from LA, it's pretty easy to do social distancing.
No, I'm with you. It's kind of a shame, Mark, that even something like this, in terms of how we proceed the next few weeks, whatever, even that's politicized. Like we can't get on the same page on a fucking pandemic. That's insane. And look, the right, obviously, the parts on the rights that are ridiculous with it. Like everything now, this and that, and like no, you don't do that. But the left also too at the same time is people left saying, we need to be locked down no matter what. And I'm like, no, I think both extremes are horrible.
Yeah, it's complicated because there is a reasonable debate to say that this is egregious and this is overreaching. The problem is we wouldn't have to be taking these more extreme measures if an appropriate response was coordinated and rolled out from the time that the president first started receiving intelligence on this, which all indications are that he was aware of what we were facing as early as late December, early January. That's the last reports I've seen. Mm-hmm. So then you have a few things. So let's see. One of the reasons we're poorly equipped to meet this moment is because people are broadly not covered or don't have access to health care. That's one. Our healthcare system, besides being based in cost accounting, is really a sick care system. You don't like, by and large, Americans don't take necessary preventative steps because they can't afford it to incorporate it as part of their daily regimen or their annual regimen. And as a result, healthcare costs a lot more because you treat people for being sick rather than prevent people from getting sick in the first place.
Right.
So that's one component. Then, for the last 3.5 years, the president has sued to obliterate what little semblance of a national healthcare system we do have. He's consistently filed lawsuits and tried to undermine Obamacare throughout his presidency. That's a fact. So that's one layer. The other layer is that after the Ebola crisis and H1N1, the Obama White House realized that one of the greatest threats to national security is a novel virus that we don't have, that spreads quickly, that we don't necessarily have the ability to quickly and meaningfully contain. And they set up a pandemic response unit within the National Security Council. Among the first budgetary things that the president did in 2018 was eliminate this office from the National Security Council. So all these different things that the president did that are objectively true, that no matter how much he pisses and moans and screams and cries and calls reporters nasty, is going to change. He has undermined our public health care system. He has defunded the National Institutes of Health, HHS, and CDC regularly with each budget. He proposed a tax cut that blew a $1.5 trillion hole in our deficit, which has empowered or has left the government in a situation with no cash on hand to meet the economic needs of Americans. So now you have a whole bunch of Americans who are poor, getting poorer.
Did you see that? Did you see that thing with the small businesses? There's no money from now.
Yeah, exactly. Because the way they set up the slush fund, it went to a bunch of big companies and rich people, and guess what? Small businesses like my company are getting fucked as a result.
How about Ruth?
I'm not surprised at all.
How about Ruth Chris got a $20 million bailout? You know they're
exactly.
I mean, it's fucking insane. These are the things that people don't
exactly.
talk about.
And Ruth Chris is part of a larger restaurant company. I forget which one, if it's Darden or the other, or one of the other big ones, but they're part of a big restaurant conglomerate. And a company like this has cash on hand. It's the companies like mine that don't.
These are things that don't get talked about, man. These are things that don't get talked about.
Yeah, exactly. So, the president has and is continuing to royally fuck this response up from every facet. And then when you think of, we've talked about this before, the fact that hundreds of appointed cabinet and sub-cabinet positions at every department in the government are unfilled, or are filled with people who are grossly unqualified because they say nice things about the president. The Hope Hickses and the guy who was the Secretary of the Navy for 15 minutes until he fired Captain Crozier without an investigation.
Right, saw that.
These kinds of people, Ivanka, Jared, Wilbur Ross, take your pick. Mm-hmm. His TV lawyer squad, if you will. So just throughout the government, every agency needed to deal with the bureaucracy of, say the Labor Department and the Treasury Department working in conjunction to reinforce the state unemployment systems, which now are approaching 20 million jobless claims, which are probably going to hit 25 million by the end of April. So the fastest and most acute job sell-off, basically, in American history, including the Great Depression and the 2008 financial crash.
Devil in details that people don't want to talk about. Everybody's really polarizing us in that, but these are things, and you see this, and you see it in hindsight after the fact, and you wonder, like, why are, and I'm not I'm not one to, one of those people who look, I'm not a Trump person, obviously, but I'm not one of those people who's going to sit and just harp on every fucking thing he does left and right, because it's just too petty at this point. But when there are things that are
but this is literally killing people.
Legitimate.
This is literally killing thousands of people.
And your answer is, okay, whatever. I mean, stop. At some point, you have to come to grips with reality. There are people who have different views and this and that, but responsibility is responsibility, period. He's not, I'm sorry, I just don't think he's capable of handling the situation. There's no rationale with how he handles these things.
There's no evidence to suggest that he is.
And it's not coming from somebody who's a leftist. I'm not a leftist. I'm actually, I'm pretty much in the center. I have a lot of conservative views. But I'm being very optimistic.
He was calling this no worse than the flu as late as the third or fourth week of February. Mark, guess what? In 3 months, it's killed more people than the flu kills in a year.
And Mark, it's his words, not mine. His words. So don't look at me saying it's not fake news. He said himself. So own it.
Not only that, but to the people who say, well, if we were going off to war, nobody would be worrying about how many people are going to die. Well, this is going to kill more people than World War II did. So what else you got?
It's the justification bullshit I can't stand. At some point, this has got to stop. Stop fanboying. This is not Justin Bieber, okay? Stop. You know what I'm saying? It's the same thing with Obama too. Also, to be fair, I was also the critical people, but this was the Obama and Trump, in my opinion, is the way they carry out their business, the rationale. Obama always was.
You may disagree with President Obama's policies, but you cannot argue that when it came time to be the pastoral, paternal, comforting leader, giving hope at a time of crisis, can't argue that President Obama is second to none of that.
I don't need a president sitting there. And look, I've had my issues with the media for years. You know how I am with the media. I can take them and leave them at the same time in certain degrees. But I don't need a president. When a media person is asking a legitimate question about the handling of the situation, and you come down to him and saying that that's a disgusting question, that's a problem for me. Sorry, and I hate defending the media. I hate it. But when you're doing that shit, that's a problem.
People wanted a businessman president. People wanted somebody who was going to shake things up and be different. And now it's like, how's that working out for you? Because this guy, like most business people, the people who all said that have never really spent any time around corporate executives. Because most of them are self-serving assholes.
Yeah. Yeah.
And if they spent any significant time around them, they would know that. So, I grew up my whole life spending time around guys like Donald Trump and people who are actually, I shouldn't say that, people who are actually good at what Donald Trump aspires to be.
Right.
So I know that most of those people are not particularly nice. And that's not what you want in a president.
Yeah, I totally agree with you 100%. I don't know. When do you think, make a prediction real quick, Mark. When do you think we'll be back to normal again? When I say normal, I mean, when do you think we'll get back to...
I'll give you this answer kind of through the scope of what we're talking about internally in my hotel company.
Okay.
So obviously it's going to vary state to state based upon the response of individual governors. States like California, Oregon, and Washington are likely going to be able to resume some kind of limited commerce well before other states, because all the numbers are indicating that our very drastic measures have worked to flatten the curve and buy our state health infrastructure time to reinforce itself against the eventual wave that will hit. So that, contextual caveat. Kind of in the hotel business, one of the things that we were hanging our hats on was that Dr. Fauci said people may be able to start moving around and gathering again in small groups as early as this summer. So we sort of, that being very vague and us having, I don't get any kind of industry information that's markedly different than anything that's in the newspapers. We're all kind of just listening to the briefings of governors, presidents, and mayors and county boards of supervisors like anybody else.
Right.
And I heard, I forget from what hotel company the guy was from, but it was one of the big brands, and he was up on MSNBC or CNN talking about it, and he's basically saying everything I'm telling you right now.
Mm-hmm.
No. I'm sorry. He owns a management company that operates 25 hotels in New York. That's what it was.
Okay.
So he's a much bigger, more successful version of what I do, and he was saying basically the same thing I am. So we're kind of hopeful that we may see some like non-essential travel starting to resume for businesses around July 1st.
Mm-hmm.
But I know in California, as far as like professional sports, large scale gathering, restaurants being able to operate normally, concerts, festivals, things of that nature, it's not going to be until we have a vaccine. So you're talking about best case scenario, summer of 2021.
And that's best case scenario.
Because the very quickest, I mean, unless they get all kinds of FDA alleviations and regulatory alleviations on the review process, drug trials take, 12 to 18 months in the best of times, and realistically more like 24 months in most cases. So you couldn't conceivably even have a vaccine hitting the market until the very earliest June of next year.
Mark, isn't the Super Bowl scheduled in February too, also there?
Depends on but it's in Los Angeles, right?
The Super Bowl next year, I believe, next year in LA, right?
Yeah, so the governor of California won't allow that to happen.
That's a lot. The reason I'm bringing it up because that's a lot of commerce you guys are going to lose between Super Bowl February, WrestleMania in April. Also, that's a lot of commerce you guys are going to be losing.
But Governor Newsom is pretty blunt about this in his press briefings. He's not going to sacrifice lives for dollars. Period. And
which I admire, of course, obviously,
as many economists are, that if a significant portion of the population dies in service of the economy, that you will ultimately do a larger disservice to the economy because of the fallout of those deaths.
And you got to redo this whole bullshit again.
You're better off going through a more acute short-term pain and coming out of it stronger and healthier and more unified, even if that initial duration is longer than what you foresee, want, or really can you
I will say one thing, Mark.
But that's what a lot of economists are saying.
I will say
if you come out of this thing and have a big second wave next fall, it's going to be worse.
I will say as much though, Mark, that I do agree with Trump on one thing, that we do need to shift a way to start going towards. Not saying we do it immediately, not even like next week or two. But we do have to start figuring out ways to getting back to commerce, because there is the possibility and the threat of people losing lives through poverty, losing lives through crime.
If the president wants to be able to act upon his own wishes, what he needs to do is continue to use the Defense Production Act to force American manufacturers that have the capability to do so. Let's say, for instance, like a big Procter & Gamble factory that makes paper products, makes Q-tips already.
Mm-hmm.
You think they can't easily implement a few changes to be able to produce the necessary swab reagents for COVID tests, what have you? And the president's not doing that. So it's like, if you want to be able to you want to be able to fix the problem, you need to take action. It's like the way I think about it is, it's like he's sitting inside of the White House and the White House is on fire, and he's like, this fire sucks. We have to do something about this fire. He's the only one who can actually turn on the water valve, though.
Right. Good point.
And he's not turning on the water valve. He's just pissing and moaning about the fire.
Right.
And that's kind of how it feels watching this whole thing. It's like, you have the power to unify our efforts, to marshal the necessary resources, and you're telling everybody to do it themselves and then bitching about it when it doesn't work, when 50 different governors have to do 50 different things.
Right. I'll tell you what, though. All this going on, obviously, I'm now entering week 6 of my lockdown. And we've forgotten that there's actually we actually have an election this year. And we actually have a Democratic race, which is pretty much over now, because this going on, Joe Biden took over and is now the presumptive nominee for the Democratic Party for President of the United States.
Well, not only that, as of Meet the Press this morning, in the NBC News Wall Street Journal poll that covered like the last 2 weeks, I think, he's leading 49-42, so that's outside the margin of error.
Trump?
Yeah, Biden is leading Trump in a head-to-head NBC News Wall Street Journal poll that covered the last week or two. with 1,000. I don't remember if it was likely voters or registered voters. I can't remember. But it was 49-42 Biden with a margin of error of 3.5 points.
I'm actually a little surprised there is that wide. Because again, we have a lot of people who are still. Again, as we said before in the podcast, like you have the 30% that no matter what's going to happen, Trump has that 30% locked in key. Okay, you have 30% on the left hand side for the most part that are lock and key going to vote blue, even whether or not they agree with Bernie Sanders or Joe Biden. They're going to vote blue because they don't like Trump. The middle 40 is the one I'm worried about the most. Because the moderates, the NPAs, the Bernie Bros, the Never Trumpers, but although I will say Never Trumpers.
Well, and I will say
the Never Trumpers have been a little more. Never Trumpers would probably be a little more scarier if Bernie would have won. Because a lot of Never Trumpers I've listened to and spoken to that don't like Trump, but they were scared of Bernie's policies. But that's out the way now.
Yeah, I think the moderates and the Obama Trump voters and whatnot are gonna gravitate to Biden a lot more naturally than to Bernie, particularly in a moment of crisis. And the one thing that Trump is, privileged white people who don't follow politics and go, Hillary lied about Benghazi and my 401k is fine. Like that person who votes for Trump and doesn't really think about larger consequences. Their 401k probably lost about 15%, if not more, over the last month and a half. So let's see how disengaged politically that person is this November.
Yeah.
When their 401k is not on cruise control because of, deregulation and tax bills.
Yeah. It's fascinating because of the pandemic and, will there be, my fear is going to be less voting booths open for election because of, maybe more suppression on the way.
That's one of the outcomes that really makes me nervous is the voter suppression efforts. States like Florida, Wisconsin, Michigan, Ohio, Pennsylvania.
All swing states.
Those are the states.
All swing states.
Yeah, Arizona is a swing state this year.
You think so? You think
Nevada.
Wait. Because I keep hearing that, Mark, and I'm not saying it isn't so, but
Martha McSally Okay, Kristen Sinema was a second-rate candidate, and she still beat Martha McSally. Her Senate race. Martha McSally is only a senator because she was appointed by the governor.
So you really
and
believe
she's going to lose re-election.
So you think Arizona's really in play for the Democrats this time?
Yeah, I think there's enough people who are working class, poor. They're just tired of all the bullshit. They're tired of Scottsdale telling them what, being in charge and electing a bunch of people that aren't really good for the wide variety of Arizonans who live in places like Buckeye and Yuma and all these other towns that people don't think of.
I mean, I keep hearing that, and Hillary was competitive, I believe, in 2016, in red Arizona.
Yeah, she sucked as a candidate. I think Biden does well there, and also just the degree to which Trump has shat upon John McCain during his life and after his death doesn't sit well with people in Arizona, even people who like Trump. It's like, I love everything you're saying, but you fucked with McCain, and that's my dude.
Yeah, I'm gonna say right now. Let me get the actual results for Arizona. It was actually closer. So obviously Trump.
But no, so my larger concern is that voter suppression wins out.
Of course.
Throughout the swing states, and what you see is an even wider popular election with a extremely narrow electoral win potentially for the president, and a election that in the midst of a pandemic ends up finding itself in the Supreme Court.
Okay, so Arizona 2016 election, Trump did win. He got 48% of the vote, whereas Hillary got 44.5% of the vote. So, and Hillary Clinton was again an unpopular candidate. So, Joe Biden could get at least 2% more than she did, at least 2% more, and he swung Trump is not much popular. So, yeah, I can see that probably swing a little bit.
And Joe Biden can run a ton of ads in Arizona of videos of John McCain saying how great he is, and of them working together, and
of course,
yes. All these different things. He's going to have stacks on stacks on stacks of that footage. So that's going to be slam dunk advertising for Biden in Arizona and New Mexico.
And we go for comparison real quick. Comparison to 2012, Obama and Romney. Romney, it's funny is that Romney won that pretty big over Obama. Romney got 53% of the vote. Obama got 44% of the vote. But it is a trend. But as you said, it is a trending to a purple state now.
Yeah, and as the economic divide has grown wider and wider, Arizona is a state that feels it pretty acutely. I mean, I would venture to guess that there's a lot more Arizonans on SNAP and Section 8 housing than there are living in gated communities in Scottsdale with ball players and retired hockey players.
I was surprised actually initially for years that it was as conservative as it was. I was actually a little surprised that Arizona was conservative.
Big Second Amendment state. They got a lot of freedom in Arizona.
I mean,
remember, Arizona was the last mainland state so Arizona was the last of the lower 48 to actually become a state, and it was like in the 30s. So, I mean, there's people who conceivably were alive or are alive today who lived in Arizona when it was not a state.
Okay. It makes sense. That makes sense. Makes perfect sense.
So they just have they have kind of like a Texas sort of independent small government mind about them.
Right. I'm actually quite impressed, and you know me, I don't mince words about the Democratic Party. I've been very hard on the Democratic Party for the last 5 or 6 years and how they handle things optically. You and I both, actually, to be honest with you, but me more so, definitely. And the way they treated Bernie and the Hillary situation during the primaries in 2016 and all that. I have to say, Mark, and I want to talk your thoughts on this, that they've been, so far, optics speaking, handled this so far pretty well in terms of Bernie, endorsing Biden, suspending his campaign, all that. Even though people could say, Bernie Rose can sit there and say, oh, well, it looks unfair because, Klobuchar and Buttigieg all dropped out because all the moderates.
No, you're absolutely right. The sequence of endorsements, the way that it happened from the time, Bernie dropped out and endorsed.
Right.
And then I believe Elizabeth Warren endorsed. And then President Obama put out.
Actually, Warren came last. Warren was last, actually.
Yeah, he entered the group chat, so to speak. And he put forth a really good, heartfelt message that didn't mince words, didn't seem like bullshit, didn't seem like, sugar-coated campaigning stump crap. It was saying, look, this was a great race. Obviously, I have a special relationship with Joe. I think he should be the president, and I'm going to spend the next X number of days until Election Day telling you that. Mm-hmm. However, I have to specifically recognize Bernie. We don't always agree, but he's made me a better leader and a better politician, and he's made our country better for it, giving a voice to the progressive, blah, 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 blah. And he's going to Bernie's obviously going to not be the running mate, but be front and center from in cultivating the platform of Joe Biden's general election campaign. And they've unified the party months before Clinton and Obama did in 2008. So,
yeah, I think the opposite.
Full steam ahead.
And let's be real here. I've been on social media. Look, I like Bernie Sanders. I think he's an authentic, very easy. I'll be honest with you. I think is the most authentic presidential candidate I've seen in my lifetime. Because he, not that I necessarily agree with everything he says, but he sticks to his convictions and what he believes in.
Absolutely. And one of the last things my dad told me before he died was he confessed to me that as a lifetime Republican, even through the 60s, he voted for Jimmy Carter for a lot of the same reasons I voted for Bernie, is because even though he didn't necessarily agree with Carter on everything, he just couldn't get over the fact that he struck my dad as a really good man who was forthright and honest
and was
genuinely working for the interests of the people. And unfortunately, we know that as far as the Washington machine goes, Jimmy got chewed up and spit out, but he was probably one of our most honorable presidents of the last 100 years.
I 100% agree with you. I 100% agree with you.
And I think that Bernie and Jimmy Carter share a lot of that same integrity,
right?
In how they're perceived by the public, and in a lot of ways, I think that had the Democratic machine and Congressman Wasserman Schultz, not torpedoed Bernie's campaign very early on, 16 could have looked a lot like 76.
Which is why I can't stand the narratives this week too. There's a piece that came out. It was a piece that came out, I think, in Politico this week about how Barack Obama behind the scenes did not really want Bernie to win, and that he was very worried about if he won this and that. That he may actually, had he won the nomination, he would have tried politically to have him not be the nominee. With some to that degree. And to me,
I think that's the pinnacle of stupidity.
Right, and this is my thing. And Bernie Sanders supporters are like, "Oh, Obama disappointment. He would do that." I like, listen. You understand if Obama wanted to, because he is the biggest Democratic, not person.
He's the chairman emeritus of the Democratic Party.
You actually need to think,
a lot of people's president.
Bernie supporters need to think more broadly here. Had Barack Obama endorsed any of those candidates, Tom Steyer, Pete Buttigieg, it doesn't matter. Most likely that person would have won a nomination because his endorsement rang very heavy. The fact he stayed out of the whole thing.
Yeah, exactly. Look at the Congressman Clyburn in South Carolina and how that swung things for Joe. Could you imagine what Barack Obama coming out early for, like you said, could have come out for Tulsi Gabbard.
Right. It would have been heavy. And there's a better than good
chance she's the nominee.
The fact that he didn't, though, is a testament to him allowing the democratic process to play out. So why are you criticizing Obama now? Because if anything, Bernie Sanders
do I have any doubt whatsoever that I'm pretty confident that Barack Obama's top three candidates were in this order: Joe Biden, Kamala Harris, Elizabeth Warren. Those were like his three favorites.
Not Buttigieg? You don't think Buttigieg was one of his three?
No, he's not experienced enough.
Okay.
President Obama had big inexperience gaps to make up, particularly on the foreign policy front. And he was a constitutional law professor and a senator, for Christ's sake. Mm-hmm. Pete Buttigieg was the mayor of the 15th largest town in Indiana. Come on.
Yeah, I agree. I what you're saying there. But again, like I said, he allowed it to play out, and Bernie supporters, they got to think broadly here. They need to think. I mean, look, you don't always get what you want. Sorry. And not only that, Bernie Bros threw a hissy fit in 2016 and stayed home, and look what happened. Look what we got. Well, right, in general, yes. But here's the thing with Bernie Bros. 2016, everything you did and your arguments was justified. I agree with you. 2020, not so much. And not only that, you didn't turn out. Your turnout was lower than 4 years ago. So I'm sorry, guys. Winning nominations, elections are not pep rallies and fucking Twitter hashtags. It's actually winning, going to the fucking polls. Hate to break it to you. Sorry.
Yeah, it's true. And and here's the other thing too. Joe won by big margins in states that had larger turnout.
Yes.
Even in the 2008 primary.
Biden,
Virginia doubled up. I think the 2000, that was the one we talked about before, right after Super Tuesday, was that Virginia got double the amount of total voters participating in the Democratic primary in 2020 as in 2008. I mean, it was something stupid like that.
Well, put it this way, in sports terms here, for Bernie Bros who don't understand this. And I'm not trying to knock on Bernie Bros because, again, I like Bernie Sanders. He's a good person. This and that. Again, we have maybe some disagreement on some policy ideas, but offensively, he's with me all the way. But
okay.
Joe Biden
let's be
ran
clear,
the scoreboard.
The people that harass and do awful things on the internet make up, in my estimation, a very, very, very small percentage of Bernie Sanders supporters. Because I can tell you, I went to a Bernie rally in San Diego in 2016. And it was one of the warmest, universally most friendly environments, right down to the Secret Service agents. that I have ever been in. Like, everyone was just like, hey, what's your story? Give me a hug. It was the kind of shit that would make Tony Fauci skin crawl. I get it. But everybody at the rally was super friendly. So
right.
You know,
Mm-hmm.
But go on.
I sound like a parent when I say this shit. You know, I sound like a fucking. I'm turning 40 in 2 weeks, so obviously, I mean, I'm definitely in that range now. But you know, I'm trying to get people more nuance here. You know, don't look. If the goal at this point is to beat Trump, get your shit in order. This is your options.
Yeah,
that's it.
Like, this is it. Do you want Trump to be president or not? Like, can you live with that? Do you want that?
A lot of friends of mine who are don't like Joe Biden. I'm not a big Joe Biden guy myself, but it is what it is. Go to the poll. How about go and vote? How about that? Did you vote? If you didn't vote, I don't hear a goddamn word you're saying. Sorry, I had to break it to you. All right.
Yeah, exactly.
Let's change things. The last thing I want to talk about with you for this podcast. I'm glad we able to do this, man. Thank God. Got to 2 days.
Yeah, definitely.
You know. Tonight is the premiere of the first 2 parts of the Last Dance documentary on the 1998 Chicago Bulls. Michael Jordan, the Bulls, Dennis Rodman, Pippen, all that. Yeah, I'm really excited about this documentary. And Mark, I am somebody who still despise the Bulls in my teenage years because everybody loved Jordan. I was the anti-Jordan, although acknowledging he was all time.
Was it 96 or 97 in the Eastern Conference playoffs where they had that really gnarly series against the Heat and Tim Hardaway?
Well, it wasn't that gnarly. It was 97. It wasn't that gnarly. We lost in 5 games. They dominated that series pretty much. We won 1 game, which was game 4 after we were down.
Yeah, but that was a really good. That was the best Miami team that I had seen to date.
Oh, of course. That was the first time we won 60 games. Yeah, that was the best team at that point.
That was the first. That's the first time in my life I remember noticing the Miami Heat as anything other than a cool logo.
Yeah, but I'm really excited about this documentary. Lots of narrative. Obviously, there's no sports going on, Mark. Lots of narratives about things, about Jordan's greatness and where the Bulls stack up. Now, your boy, Shaquille O'Neal, I don't know what platform he said this on, but he was quoted as saying that he believes that his 3-peat Lakers with Kobe 2000-2002 would have beaten the Bulls in the 7-game series. I think that's completely bullshit. And I'll set you up in a second because I know you have something you want to say about this. And the reason I explained on the podcast 2 episodes ago is that it's less about Shaq and Kobe and this and that. It's more the fact that the Lakers, in my opinion, didn't have the necessary players beyond those 2 guys to shut down the Bulls. People forget about that Bulls team. The reason why I find the first 3 Jordan Bulls teams more impressive is because that was a less than roster. You know what I'm saying?
That was Michael Jordan and Scottie Pippen.
Pippen growing to the role, right? Growing to the role.
Yeah. I was going to say that was a starting to mature Michael Jordan and a baby Scottie Pippen carrying a bunch of scrubs to the finals against like aging Showtime and the Bad Boys.
Right. You got to be a basketball nutcase to know how good that Bulls team was in 96-98 because first off, I've said for years that last 3 team for the Bulls, that was a stacked roster. Ron Harper, ladies and gentlemen, once upon a time was an all-star. People don't remember that. Yep. He was an all-star. His knees gave out on him, though. Yeah, but he was an all-star.
Well, even Luke Longley was probably at that in that run. He was probably the 8th best center in a league that included Patrick Ewing, Hakeem Olajuwon, David Robinson, and Shaq.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. I agree with you on
that.
So,
and I mean, he was the best player on the Australian national team, which I know in 96, 97, 98, that was kind of a joke still. Right. But he was still the best player on the Australian national team in the 96 Olympics. Again, Luke Longley was no slouch as a center, and he was the weakest link in their starting 5.
And don't forget, Jordan gets time off. Like, granted, he play baseball, does that. But Jordan gets to reset, take a year and a half off, okay? He's freshened now. He's still in his peak. Okay, Pippen now has his peak as Flowers also too. Dennis Rodman was, as done as he was at that time, he was still phenomenal what he did. By the way, Tony Kukoc, at one point, 2 years prior to that 96 team, was looked at as the greatest player in the world, not named Michael Jordan. He's your sixth man now. Again, stacked roster. That's why they're beating the Lakers in 6 games at least.
Yeah, and I'm sorry, the 2001 Lakers teams went on one of the best obvious playoff runs ever at 15-1, and it was an Allen Iverson shit show away from being a perfect run. So like that, obviously that team was sick. But no, they get their asses handed to them by the Bulls, like 4-1 against Detroit handed to them. Absolutely not. And I actually contend that while the team gets a lot less of attention, the 2008, 9, 10 Lakers with Powell and Lamar and grown-ass Kobe are way more of a matchup problem for the 96, 97, 98 Bulls than the Shaq and Kobe Lakers. Because if you can at least contain Shaq and Kobe and force three other guys on the floor to beat you, that 96, 97, 98 Bulls teams, they got four other guys on the floor that can catch and shoot. They got guys who can make plays. Scottie Pippen can still create his own shot. Like, they give that Lakers team fits, because who's going to guard Scottie? Rick Fox? Like, so what? He's going to have 3 fouls on him by halftime and be sitting down until the fourth quarter.
It's kind of stunning.
Put Trevor Ariza on Jordan and Kobe on Scottie, and that backcourt and the transition has gotten a whole lot more fucked up. And then on the other side, you put Lamar Odom, who's a danger from the three-point line, dragging Dennis Rodman away from Powell and Bynum down low in the block on defense, and you've taken 3-4 rebounds off his line that night.
You know what's funny though? Like, you tell somebody else that, like, just present that to them, be like, that's insane. That Lakers won 15-1. No, you have to look at the roster. That Laker roster.
Bynum was solid enough then that he and Longley virtually cancel each other out. What power forward is stopping Powell, who's a 7-footer that can pass like a point guard and do anything he wants?
And they'll dominate the boards in a way that Rodman would, but Rodman had to deal with 2 guys now instead of 1.
Yeah, so Rodman is either guarding Powell, who's 3 inches and 6 inches of reach bigger than him, or he's guarding Lamar Odom, who's taking him out to the 3-point line and running his ass all over the floor because Lamar plays like a 6'9" point guard.
That's actually it's funny, like you say.
You've got a young Ariza or a mean ass Artest, depending on whether you take the 9 team or the 10 team.
Here's why
guarding Jordan, and so what? Jordan's going to get 20 points and 5 assists every game, but he's going to have 3 fouls and likely a technical multiple times in the series because Artest's going to drive him fucking nuts.
Oh no! Well, I think Jordan and Kobe's going to eat no matter what.
Yeah, they're going to get their they're going to get their points, but
to get there.
Exactly. But that's the thing, is Jordan's going to have to work for every shot and guard Kobe on the other side. So by game 3-4 of that
I do
series,
think Pippen could.
What are his lines looking like?
I actually don't think Jordan will be guarding Kobe. I think that'll be Pippen's assignment. They always put Pippen on the best offensive player on every series. When it was Phoenix, it was Kevin Johnson. When it was against the Lakers in '91,
so if you've got
Johnson.
Artest on Jordan, so let's call it the 2010 Lakers. You've got Artest on Jordan and Pippen on Kobe. You've basically just taken them out of the game, and you can maybe count on 20 points for each of them.
Yeah, no,
unless they go
30, 20. They're getting 30, Mark. They're not getting 20. They're getting 30. They're going to eat. They're going to eat no matter what. But the question is
Pippen and Artest guarding them.
They'll eat, but I think the efficiency of how they get there is the problem. Like, Jordan get 30, but
they're having to take 25, 30 shots a game.
Exactly. There you go. And that still plays into the.
They're taking 30 shots. They're taking 30 shots to get 30 points,
and which is bad for the rest of the team because then they're not involved. So that's
and you think about it too, and the size of that Lakers squad. If they're going to play a grinding half-court set, that's a Lakers team that's better built for that because they got more guys who can shoot, so they work the ball inside out through the triangle, and they're going to have more guys in the corners who can knock down threes. The Bulls only really have on the starting rotation Ron Harper or Scottie Pippen who can do that. Jordan obviously could, but that just wasn't really part of his game. He was ball dominant. But the Lakers have like 8 guys who could do that between Shannon Brown and Sasha, like really far down the bench.
I argue that
Laker team
was a lot more balanced than the old 2000s Laker team because they were younger.
Exactly.
I think Kobe was better as a player actually in later 2000 than he was in
Kobe in 2008, 9, 10 was a way better player than 2001. 2001, he was still jumping out of the gym and he was doing incredible shit. But I equate Kobe to in the three-peat really more to the Jordan who kept getting his ass kicked by either the Celtics or the Pistons in the 80s. Mm-hmm. Because he didn't have help, but Kobe had Shaq. So Kobe got chips then. But really, 8, 9, 10 Kobe is what I equate to like 96, 97, 98 Jordan. Because he was still athletic enough that he was dunking on dudes, but he wasn't doing it 8 times a game. But he was knocking down threes. He was lethal inside of 18 feet.
Oh God!
And everybody bit his head fake except Gary Payton.
Gary Payton did a great job in that Nexus Finals against him.
But the one thing is, and they talked about this in the 08, they did an interview with Best Damn during the 08 Olympic practices when Gary was working as like a trainer for the U.S. team and Kobe was on the team. And they were talking about that. And Gary Payton just never went for head fakes on anyone, period. And so he was saying how when Kobe finally figured out, he'd just start rising up and busting them on him without a head fake. Because he knew Peyton wouldn't go for it, then he had to change his game a little bit. But just Gary across the board didn't go for head fakes.
You know what happened?
He really struggled against him early.
You know what happened, Mark? In that series, they lost in 6. Seattle did. Chicago went up 3-0 early in that series. What happened is that George Karl made that.
That's, by the way, in my opinion, that's the best team that ever stood a chance at beating Michael Jordan in an NBA Finals.
And yet, you can argue they weren't that competitive. And yet, you can argue they weren't that competitive because check this out. They're down 3-0. Seattle, okay? Then they win the next 2 games because of the adjustment they made with Gary Payton. Because remember, they put Payton on Jordan until late in game 3.
Yeah, and he was, I forget who their 2 guard was at the time, but he was getting torched by Jordan.
Percy Hawkins.
Yeah, there you go. Percy Hawkins versus the glove.
Good player, but,
very solid NBA player, but it's the NBA Finals and you're playing Michael fucking Jordan. You put Gary Payton on him.
I would also listen to this podcast.
George Karl, though, man.
Mm-hmm, I would implore you guys, listen to this podcast, to go back to the '96 Finals against Seattle, Chicago-Seattle, and look at Jordan's numbers from games 3 through 6. That's Payton. Jordan was inefficient as fuck in that series. When Payton was guarding him. Just saying.
It started getting real scary. Like game 5, game 6, you were starting to think, "Oh shit."
I thought I know
Seattle do this?
Well, Mark, it was a 2-3-2 format. Game 6 and 7 in Chicago. That's when fucking hell Jordan allowed that to go beyond 6. So there was I was praying for Seattle to win that series, but knowing in my back of my head that it ain't happening. It ain't happening. You know what I'm saying? I think the best chance the Bulls are losing a series was against Utah. And I hated the Jazz, but I root for them also, too.
Yeah, that 98, 97 and 98 Jazz team they were stacked. Like, they were built to try to beat Jordan. But I think the big hole with Hornacek, like, they didn't really have somebody that could lock Jordan up.
No.
Because their talent was either too big and too slow or too small. Yeah, but, I mean, come on, he couldn't keep up with Jordan.
Right,
Jordan ran him to death, and it was old man Jordan.
Right. No, I agree. To me, the best Jordan I've ever seen to this day still, I said on Twitter earlier today, or yesterday rather, the 93 Finals against Phoenix. Jesus. That Jordan in that series was the absolute peak of his powers in terms of athleticism.
Well, and I'd argue the more entertaining watch of that Jordan was the Eastern Conference Finals against New York.
That one, and here's the fun about that one too, the Knicks were up 2-0 in that series.
That series was gnarly. Like, we talk about the Pacers and Knicks beating the shit out of each other because they did it to each other multiple times and, like, Reggie, Spike Lee, all that. But that, like, 93 Bulls-Knicks series, to me, if you had to, like, put the 90s in one game or one series, it would come from that.
It's funny
because it was before Patrick Ewing started to really break down. He was still only, like, 7 or 8 years in the league.
I think Ewing was second in the MVP race that year.
John Stark's little country ass could play a really respectable defense against Jordan and gave him fits at times during that fucking series. And they were sick. Like, those Bulls, that 93 Bulls team against the Knicks in the Eastern Conference Finals, that's one of the series that I just remember going like, oh my God, these guys are going to kill each other.
So that year, Barkley won the MVP, obviously. I think Ewing was in conversation, though. Let me see the final votes.
It was probably Barkley, Jordan, Ewing.
It might have been Barkley. I'm trying to find who was the runner-up.
Because Ewing was filthy then.
Oh, I see. That Knicks team won 60 games that year. They were the number one seed in the East that year. Remember that? The Bulls were number 2 in the East that year. Number 1 was New York. So, yeah, I don't see the results. I'm trying to look. I know Barkley won. I'm trying to see what the order, race order. Let me see.
You might be hard pressed to dig that one up.
Yeah, I'm doing it right now as we speak. I want to get this on the pod. Let's see, MVP. They don't have it. Shit. Crap. The point is that 93 Jordan was. See, and this is the thing with Jordan. This is why he was the greatest of all time, in my opinion. Is that mentally he was on another level. That's why New York couldn't beat him. New York could beat him up all they want. New York, but Jordan knew how to adjust mentally and get his own anyway.
Yeah, I think we're gonna learn. A lot of things about Michael Jordan that like we know about other more recent players, but just because we didn't have the access to him, we didn't know. And I think ultimately what this is going to do probably is level the playing field of the conversation really between like Kobe, Jordan, Mike, or Kobe, Jordan, LeBron.
Well, did you hear Ramona Shelburne?
We're going to realize exactly how much in common those guys had and exactly how flawed Michael Jordan was.
Oh, absolutely.
Like he even said, he's like, I'm kind of worried everyone's going to think I'm an asshole after they see this.
Well, if Jordan playing in this era of social media, people will hate him. Trust me, he won't be real the same way. Did you see the Ramona Shelburne tweet that I retweeted yesterday? So she had said that, this is from her article from yesterday, I'm still reading it actually, that the footage from this, the majority of the footage from this documentary, Michael Jordan owns that, but they never released it. It was in a vault in Secaucus.
Oh, okay. No, I read something about this. Yeah, it was. They all knew. Like that's why Phil called it the Last Dance. Like they knew what they were doing was unprecedented. Mm-hmm. And so they allowed a bunch of cameras to follow them. And I don't know that Jordan owned it, but he was the one who had like a no trade clause on it.
Right.
That he had right of first refusal or something. And it was only something happened at the 2016 Cavs
when the Cavs won the series. He decided to say we're going to do this now. I think he's legacy protection thing.
Something clicked, and he decided he was going to share this footage with the world. And so that was when they started. That's basically when they started remastering it and post producing it.
Legacy protection activated.
And I'm fucking salivating to watch this tonight. Like I keep refreshing my ESPN Plus app on my Apple TV, hoping I'll get it 15 minutes fucking earlier than I'm supposed to.
Legacy.
Like, oh shit, it's ready. Yes.
Yeah, Mark. This is what I said when I saw that quote. The 3 words came to mind was this: legacy protection activated. 2016.
Well. And as a Laker fan, I think honestly, within LA, this is gonna everybody watching this that was already a Kobe fan is gonna feel validated in a sense of saying see, Kobe and Jordan were the exact same. See, he's right there with him.
Yeah.
I think that, and especially with what someone
dies,
dying in an untimely way in particular does to one's legacy. How it has a way of enhancing one's legacy. It's going to humanize Jordan. It's going to bring Jordan out of the clouds a little bit, and it's going to make people see, oh fuck, man, Kobe really was his photocopy. Mm-hmm. We basically got an extra 20 years of Jordan because of an extra 15 years of Jordan because of Kobe.
I am curious though. because I feel like LeBron is the middleman here, because Kobe will probably look at him, but Kobe's death too also adds to that layer of that. LeBron, and unfortunately because LeBron couldn't finish the season this year because of what we're going through with the pandemic, how does the conversation go for LeBron now? Because now we're being thrown Michael Jordan, and there's a lot of kids who don't understand how fucking good Jordan was. We say it, but you had to see it.
I did not think LeBron was gonna re-sign in LA, and the only way that I think he doesn't now is if it's because he signs with whomever drafts Bronny. The only way that LeBron doesn't retire a Laker is if he goes somewhere specifically for the purpose to play with Bronny. So I'm pretty confident that, especially with how this season ended, even if let's say right now they don't devise any kind of way to come up with some sort of asterisk champion for this year, it probably won't. The season's probably just going to go the way of the 94 baseball season. I have a feeling that LeBron and AD, especially because of their personal friendships with Kobe and how that all affected the city and the run we were on and the whole, I'm sorry. When you look at where the season ended, with us beating the Bucks and the Clippers in short order like that in one weekend, ain't nobody was fucking with the Lakers this spring. I'm sorry.
Yeah, probably.
Only injuries were going to stop the Lakers.
Yeah, you're probably correct in that. I mean, there was something
because LeBron was going to go into playoff mode. And remember, people always forget how much better is Rondo in the playoffs than in the regular season. And when he's like the 9th best player on the team. Fuck. I'm sorry. There was no one that was touching the Lakers in May or June this year. Just not happening.
Well,
the ghost of Kobe Bryant was going to be on the floor, making turnaround jumpers up from the elbow to get them to a fucking chip this year.
Well, I'm excited about this documentary, man.
I'm pretty confident that, let's just say that there's no weird alleviation in Anthony Davis or the Lakers get an extra year of Anthony Davis because the season ended, whatever. I am very confident that he is going to quickly re-sign with the Lakers, get out recruiting whoever else is available, and LeBron and Anthony Davis go down as Laker legends.
Yeah. Yeah, I tend to agree with that, definitely.
Kind of in the same way, I think LeBron's place in Laker lore rests kind of with Wilt Chamberlain, in that LeBron is probably top 3 greatest players to ever play for the Lakers,
but not top 5.
Top 4. He's not even close to the 5th best Laker of all time.
Unless let's say he wins 3 straight or 2 whatever.
But Wilt's best years were in Philadelphia.
Yeah. Yeah.
So I think LeBron probably wins 1, maybe 2 more championships in LA, depending on how much help they get and how they can reconstruct the roster around him and what the NBA looks like.
How the league looks, yeah, absolutely. How the league looks. I mean, that's
presuming we have something that resembles what it used to look like.
Yeah, tell me about it, man. I can't wait.
Well, I think we start, like I said, I think states that were doing well are going to start having some we're allowed to have gatherings of up to 5 people. Even that will do a lot for small businesses as far as retail goes. And certain gathering places. So, states like California, Washington, Oregon that got on the bandwagon early are going to be able to start experiencing some sort of reopening. And as soon as we have a vaccine, I think we'll see everything kind of open as a flood. But until we have a vaccine, I think we're going to, and much more robust testing, we're going to be doing this for a while.
Yeah, I agree. And that's where we'll end it here. Mark, thank you so much for being on the pod, man. It was fun. Got everything you needed to hit.
Thank you. Yeah, let me know. Let me know when we're doing it again, because it's funny. I have a lot of time on my hands right now.
Oh yeah, absolutely. Yeah, I'm waiting for the next political bullshit to drop again. I'm sure there's a lot more to happen in the coming weeks, even with the.
Oh yeah, this week's press conferences, I'm sure will be colorful, especially because Biden started hitting Trump pretty hard on the advertising front already.
Is it smart for Biden to get involved or to lay back on it? Is it smart for Biden to criticize in time of panic, or should he just lay back? I'm kind of
I think you got to get in the fucking fight.
Okay.
I think you got to hit him in the mouth.
Okay, fair enough.
You know, liberals. We talk about this all the time. Liberals are so smart, and they always lose because they play like little wusses. I think Biden has a confrontational sort of aura to him, a no nonsense, no malarkey, not gonna take your shit sort of aura to him. And so I think to pussyfoot around and play like bullshit games under the guise of decorum ultimately does him more of a disservice with the independent voters. He needs to get out there and be like, no, this guy's an idiot. This guy's reckless. This guy's going to kill us all. And even if you don't agree with me on everything, I'm at least not going to let you die.
And Trump's willing to do that. Let's see if Biden is willing to do the same. We'll see.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. He's coming hard at Joe and Hunter, I think, in Ukraine and all kinds of stuff. We just haven't seen the worst of it yet, but it's coming because they got a lot of money that they've been building up for a while.
Mm-hmm.
And Brad Parscale is an analytics monster.
Yeah. All right, bud. So let's put we can, and we'll talk soon. Definitely.
Take care, and
you too.
We'll count on random naps from the little guy.
Exactly, and stay. Yep, exactly.
For future pods.
Absolutely, and stay safe, and make sure you don't do anything out of ordinary, and you recover from.
Yeah, wash your hands, mask up. Don't be stupid. Don't leave your house if you don't have to.
Mark, take care. Enjoy the documentary night.
Indeed, I shall. Take care.
All right, brother. Take care. Thank you.